Once before time, the grandfather consciousness created the heavens and the physical plane. The heavens is where anything existed. In the physical plane is where the kingdoms were born. The grandfather consciousness had no shape, no name, but it was and is the supreme creator of all things that exist in the galaxy. At the spark of creation, the grandfather consciousness spawned a multitude of different life forms. All had different shapes, sizes, but most importantly, different ranges of consciousness. Amongst all the life forms, the Creator's favorite creation was his angels. And amongst the two angels, there were two brothers by the name of Nonos and Mustafar. Nonos became the king and the commander-in-chief of the angels, while Mustafar became the general of the Titanic fleet. The grandfather consciousness, the creator of all things, has the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. So while there were many things created good, there was also things created evil. The evil, wicked vampire king Vulkan, who immediately fell to the physical plane upon creation. See, Vulkan knew that he could not rule in the heavens, so he decided to descend to Titanic to usurp the lands and become the god of the earth. Once Vulkan arrived on Titanic, he knew he needed a companion. So from his DNA, he created a woman by the name of Ursa, who would become his wife and the queen of the new race, the vampires. Ursa's DNA was half vampire and half fire nymph, because Vulkan abducted the Fire Lord's daughter and used her DNA alongside his to clone Ursa. Once Ursa was completed, the two began to mate, and they started a whole new breed of life forms on Titanic called vampires, half vampire, half nymph, and together the entire bloodline conquered the earth, and Vulkan became the first adversary, the usurped ruler of Titanic. Angel King Nonos looked down, and he saw the world. He saw the tormentation, the evil, and the wickedness that the vampires and King Vulkan was causing on the planet Titanic. So he decided something must be done, and he called his brother to consult with him. The two brothers conversed together. They looked upon the earth, and they saw how the nymphs and the humans and the animals all suffered. They cried, they wept, and they all begged for help. So the two brothers decided to go and consult with the grandfather consciousness, the creator of all. GFC decides to send his two sons down to the earth. He instructs them to take nymph wives of all of their elements. He gives them the title of El and tells them that the purpose of this is to create two new nations in which will balance out the evil and the wickedness on the earth. These new species of beings will be called the nephilim. The two brothers asked the GFC, "To which land shall we start these nations upon?" and the GFC told them to create a mountain, a holy mountain, in which the GFC would cast a charm upon it, so that the vampire and Vulcan could not enter this holy place. The mountain would be called Olympus, the mountain of the gods. Before the GFC sent his two sons down to the earth, he made sure that he warned them that if either one of them allowed greed or hatred or jealousy to enter their hearts, the both would suffer. There would be betrayal, bloodshed, and a never-ending war. The two brothers made a pact to never allow these dark, evil, and wicked energies to enter their hearts. And then the GFC blessed them with powerful spiritual gifts, gold, and secret knowledge. And then they were off to begin their journey on Earth. As soon as the two brothers entered the Earth Titanic's atmosphere, the vampire king Vulcan sensed their presence. He immediately rounded up a small army and prepared to attack the two brothers abruptly. Vulcan sent 3,000 vampires. He knew that this would not be enough to stand with the two gods, but Vulcan was smart. He simply wanted to test the might of the two brothers, and this very first battle would go down and be known as the Battle of the Beginning. The vampire army of Vulcan was merciless. They was vicious, mean, and wicked. They marched for 3 days and 3 nights, and on the 4th day they arrived to the location where the two brothers landed, but they was not there. The vampire general was baffled. He knew that the two brothers couldn't have been aware of their oncoming, so he halted his soldiers so he could take time to think and figure out where the two brothers went. Unknowingly, the two brothers was aware of the vampire army's assault the entire time, and they took it upon themselves to ascend high in the sky above the clouds, where they looked down and watched and discussed their next move against the vampire army. The GFC telepathically communicated with his two sons, and he instructed them to not attack unless the vampire army made their moves first. The two brothers were extremely excited because now they get to test out their new spiritual weapons and their power against these wicked beings. Once the GFC gave the two brothers these instructions, they descended to the ground to meet the general head on. Once on the ground, Nonos said to the general, "To what brings thee upon us so?" The vampire general's eyes turned a piercing red glowing color, and then his face began to morph slowly and slowly and slowly until Mustafar was able to get a good idea of who the general was becoming. Mustafar then said, "Look, Nonos, it's the vampire king, Vulcan. It seems he has the power to possess his subjects." Vulcan then said, "Yes, you fool, it is I, the god of earth. Why have you come to my domain?" Nonos then frowned and said, "You are no god, and this is not your domain. You have usurped these lands and destroyed the Creator's creations, only to satisfy your own selfish desires. You are nothing but a wicked, lost spirit." Vulcan then said, "Silence! You will not disrespect me in front of my subjects. For this, I shall show you my power. Attack!" Nonos and Mustafar smiled. Then they both summoned their weapons. This was their chance to test their powers. and their magical gifts given to them by the GFC. Nonos had a sword that was forged with lightning and fire, while Mustafar had a trident that could control the waters. The two of them both had superhuman strength, superhuman speed, and they were nearly invincible. Nonos drew first blood by immediately decapitating the general, and then he shot high in the sky and raised his thunder sword. Mustafar threw his trident and impaled hundreds of vampires in one strike. Then Mustafar raised his hand in the air to summon his trident to come back to him. Soon as the trident reached his hands, he too shot high into the sky because he knew what was to come next. Nonos, with his sword raised in the sky, summoned the most massive electrical shock ever seen by man. The thunderbolts eradicated the land and ignited each and every vampire it touched into instantaneous combustion. It was a spectacle sight to see. "Look at them run," said Mustafar. Then he looked at his brother and said, "Come now, brother, let's finish the rest of them. We mustn't let any get away. Mercy shall not be shown to these demons," Nonos said. Then Mustafar spoke. He said, "Let us perform a combined attack. I'll summon the waters, and you fill them with your electrical thunderbolts." The two brothers agreed. Then they both raised their spiritual weapons. Mustafar summoned the water, and Nonos filled them with lightning. The remaining vampires fled in retreat, but it was too late. The waters and the lightning engulfed them all and destroyed each and every last vampire that marched in the Vulkan army on that day. The two brothers gazed at the wreckage. They was highly impressed with their power. But for some reason, Nonos knew that it wasn't just over yet. Immediately after those thoughts, the sky went dark and everything went silent. Then a dark portal opens, and through that portal, a face began to morph. Once again, it was Vulkan. He said, "The two of you may be mighty, but I am God, and you will bow before me." After those words, the apparition disappeared, and immediately everything went back to normal. There was nothing but silence as Nonos and Mustafar sat and calculated and pondered on what to do next.